Hello, it's nice to see you again. How are you doing?
Likewise, I am doing very well. And how about yourself?
Yeah, I'm great, but I'm really interested in this topic today and the idea of employee theft because I haven't really come across a lot of it. So I really want to find out sort of
Good for
who is
you.
it? Who is it?
Count
I want to
yourself
know.
fortunate. Yeah, for sure.
So how widespread is it? I mean, is it as bad as like I know you say it's bad, so tell me about it.
You know what? It's bad in the sense it's ever present, and that's the unfortunate part. But if you look across organizations, more than 75% of organizations experience some sort of employee theft or misuse of assets or diversion of assets or just quite frankly, simply stealing from an employer. It's unfortunate, but it's more common than I believe most companies or folks in business believe.
Yeah, I had no idea it was that many people. So, I mean, if you think about those sorts of numbers, and you've probably got several thefts going on at the same time within a bigger business, would you?
For sure. And, unfortunately, oftentimes the thefts that are occurring involve more than just one person. So there's witting individuals participating maybe with the person who initiated the process of deceit. And sometimes, unfortunately, there's unwittings that facilitate the process and may not know they're facilitating some sort of fraud or theft.
Do you think they sometimes suspect it, but assume because they're their colleagues that that couldn't be the case? So they're just quite trusting in that environment.
Absolutely. Trust is so misused, unfortunately. We all want to think the best of others, generally speaking, and trust is part of that. And so there's a statement I use quite often, trust is not an internal control. So a lot of folks think, oh, I vet my employees, I hire the right employees. I don't need to worry about controls or internal controls, but trust really is not a foundational internal control, unfortunately.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting. So, how long, people are doing this for quite a long time before they get caught. Do they get caught? And how often does that happen?
You're absolutely correct. Um, on the average, thefts will have been occurring for at least a year
No,
before, yeah,
seriously.
yeah, before it comes to light that someone may have been stealing or misusing assets or diverting assets. And I attribute that to on the front end of a theft, the culprit may just start dipping their toe in the water. Can I get away with X amount? And then they become a little more comfortable that they're not going to get caught. And then dip a little deeper in the water, take a little more money, you misuse the assets a little further, whatever the case may be. And then as time goes on, it reaches a threshold where it can't, they can't hide it anymore. Or this is very common. It can't be hidden, particularly if we'll just say culprit, takes a leave of absence or is sick for a few days or is on vacation or whatever the case may be. And then someone comes in to cover for them or conduct normal business and they see something is off. And so then the gig is up.
Yeah, no, I can see that.
A
Or
number of factors there.
yeah, or an email train that somebody or string that somebody sees,
Oh, for sure.
yeah, and it can get picked up. But I mean, this must surely be in small businesses. I mean, most big businesses now they have like huge controls in place, and there's so much IT as well. Um, Surely it must be just in small businesses.
It's prevalent in small businesses, but just as prevalent, or I would say just as often occurring in larger companies. I mean, 80% of the embezzlements impact smaller organizations,
Right.
smaller being defined as 150 people or less.
Okay.
And nearly a third of those embezzlements will exceed $500,000, which can be devastating to a smaller company.
Yeah, that's
Um,
massive.
and I mean, there's a number of factors. In your mid to small size companies, they often have not and do not have the capital to invest in, for instance, an integrated accounting financial system or ERP system where controls can be more easily managed. And so that oftentimes will lead to the existence of a lot of gaps in controls or a lack of separation of duties. In your larger companies, they may have an ERP system in place. However, they may not have established the proper controls that are available to be established within an ERP system. So there could be a variety of ways. And ultimately, you're dealing with human beings. And if someone wants to commit a fraud, ultimately they're spending a lot of their horsepower, if you will, and their mental capacity trying to figure out how to circumvent controls and the systems in place. So it's a you're combating human nature,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Unfortunately, it really
Yeah,
is, isn't it? So if it's so widespread, why don't we hear about it? Because I mean, I've not come across it. And it's like some communal secret, because the stats don't add up to the amount that you actually hear about in the workplace.
for sure. And here's a real answer. A lot of companies don't want the publicity or embarrassment that something of this nature has occurred
Right.
within their entity. So, unfortunately, we often see it's kept somewhat hush hush. Maybe the individuals who have been identified as perpetrating the incidents or the fraud are terminated, are swept out the door, if you will, just simply because of the embarrassment that's perceived by the company or the partners or whoever the owners are. And, there could be also some self-serving aspects to that. Maybe the leadership who should have been overwatching these employees and culprits, maybe it would come out that they were not doing their job and
Yeah,
they don't
there's
want
that
to,
as
they
well,
don't,
isn't there?
yeah, they don't want to risk getting fired or getting in trouble as well. And so a lot of times it is swept. It seems in the culture, in the business culture right now, just like with cybersecurity, folks are becoming more and more aware of cybersecurity, obviously, and how important it is to a company. And so if you talk to most anyone involved in business, whether you're entry level employee to an executive, they all are having to participate in regular cybersecurity training. And so it's top of mind. It's recent training. It's on everyone's mouth, and everyone hears about it all the time, so they know it's a risk. My opinion and my hope is that there's going to be more and more training presented about fraud and weak controls and weaknesses in processes. And the point being, it sends a message to employees that hey, it's on leadership's mind. And so
Right. Yes, I
having
can see
that,
that. Yeah.
you got to have it on the radar, and you've got to have it on everyone's radar, just like cybersecurity.
Yeah, because if people think you are checking up on it, then they're less likely to try.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, I can see that. I mean, is that kind putting in those kind of measures and doing that kind of education, is that something that you do? Is that something you've got involved in?
Oh, we do actually. We do a fair amount of training and presentations surrounding fraud and fraud prevention. I make this analogy. We are very good at being the emergency room visit, if you will, when fraud is identified and
Yes.
coming in to help assess the injuries, if you will. However, the real value we can provide is by being the preventative healthcare, your primary care physician, right? And trying
Yeah.
to mitigate the risks to a company so they don't experience the pain of that ER visit.
Well, especially if it
Kind of a
goes
weird
on for,
analogy, but
well, no, it makes sense because if it's been going on average for about 12 months before it gets caught, that's a lot of money to lose, or it could be, couldn't it? So actually just investing in that training must be far more sensible and that
way cheaper.
education. Yeah, way cheaper. Exactly.
Way cheaper.
A lot
Right.
cheaper to do it up front, particularly if there's several people doing it at the same time, if
Mhm.
you start to look at those statistics.
Oh,
So
for sure.
yeah. So what do you think people should do? What's your advice to businesses if they do think there's someone stealing from them? What should they do if they come across it?
Well, there's a lot of steps that need to be very calculated. And those calculated steps have to do with possibly segregating the potential culprits' communications, maybe beginning to surreptitiously behind the scenes examine their system activity. And so if someone goes and confronts a potential fraudster, if
Yeah,
you
that's
will,
what I was about
without,
to ask. What
yeah,
are you doing?
if yeah, if you just go and confront someone without having a backstory or some degree of evidence, you're setting yourself up for failure.
Right,
So
that's interesting. Yeah.
yeah, a company or a potential business or potential victim, they really need to do some due diligence. And they also have to understand it could be you always have to vet out. It could be that Johnny has some sort of um, beef against Billy. I'm obviously making up names. And so there could just be a personal vendetta. So you can't just
Right.
jump to a conclusion based on a rumor or a statement, but you've got to take all those rumors and statements, at least um, process them, evaluate the potential veracity of those statements, and then if there's breadcrumbs, um, follow those breadcrumbs to see how much, if they can be substantiated.
Right. And then once they're fairly sure that it is going on, or they think that they've got enough to be worried about, what should they do then? Presume contact a professional like yourselves.
Absolutely, we can help with that. No question. Sometimes, quite frankly, we partner with the company and facilitate the correct information going to law enforcement. A lot of times they think, oh my God, how do I report this? Or what can I provide to some form of law enforcement to potentially have this individual charged? And so we at times are brought in to assist in gathering the proper information because much of my team has many years of law enforcement experience. We ultimately know what types of information ultimately will be used as potential evidence, and it's really a benefit to move those cases along.
And also, it must be quite hard to for somebody when you know them to take that sort of action. There must be, I can imagine you'd feel quite guilty about sort of saying this person's doing it. There must be quite a lot of emotion and relationship mixed up in there for the people involved, surely. So it's probably easier to have somebody externally to come in and make the decisions for you with a much more balanced mind, surely.
For sure. I mean, a lot of times there's some emotions, whether it be anger, whether it be they can't believe this has happened.
Mhm.
Um, a variety of emotions are typically involved.
Yeah, it's quite a difficult situation. No, that's really helpful, Chuck. So, if people wanted to get in touch with you to talk about any of these issues, or to get your help with a similar situation, if they just need to talk it through, where could they get in touch with you?
Yeah. So the easiest way would be through my email, which is chuck.story at Rehmann.com, or through our website. There's many links through Rehmann.com, and those are going to be the best manners to contact me.
No, that's brilliant. Well, it's been great to see you, Chuck, and thanks so much for your help today. That's great.
Likewise. Thank you so much.
Bye. Bye.